Thank you.
You're ready.
Thank you.
There's it. Can you click on- got it.
Anytime, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. I'll just wait till I hit 6 on the. There we go. Good evening. Call this meeting to order. Public Works Waste Management Committee meeting of the whole Monday, February the 7th, 2022. Please note this meeting will be held virtually and available for public viewing on YouTube. As part of the public participation, if you have any questions regarding items on the agenda, please submit them by email at mail@ektwp.ca. Questions received prior to the meeting will be addressed during the public question period, which is limited to a 15-minute time period. I have a mover to adopt the agenda, please. Moved by Councilor Rayton, seconded by Mayor Burrow. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Number 3, disclosure of interest. Does anyone have any disclosure of interest this evening? Any item on the agendas? Seeing none, we'll go right into the Waste Management Committee meeting of the whole. Number 4, adoption of the minutes. That's the Public Works Waste Management Committee of the whole meeting minutes. November the 1st, 2021. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councilor Linton, seconded by Councilor Renault. Any questions, concerns, errors, or omissions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Number 5, 5.1, Waste Management Financial Statement dated February the 2nd, 2022. I have a mover and a seconder to receive the financial statement. Moved by Councilor Pretty John and seconded by Councilor Edie. Any questions? Mayor Burrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm not sure which one of the two directors who are here are going to answer these questions. I'm looking at page 12 of our agenda package. So that would be page 4 of the actual financial statements. It happens to be for Kitley Waste. One of them is directed or is directly related to Kitley Waste. There's a line item up near the top, transfer from reserves. I wasn't aware that the Kitley Waste system had reserves. So I guess my first question is, do they? And if so, how healthy is it?
Really, it's just a contingency fund for the surpluses and deficits because we can't budget exactly. That's a additional charge to just those residents.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's, so for this year, that was the amount
Right.
that I needed to offset to bring it to 0.
Okay. So were there funds from a previous year that,
Yes.
that were carried forward then to do that offset?
Yes, specifically there's, at the end of 2020, there was 27,854.
Perfect. All right. So my second question is just a little bit further down that page, and it has to do with the subcontract. So I see recycling pickup is broken out. So I'm assuming the subcontracts is for the waste pickup portion of the service. Is that right?
We do separate the like the household waste from the recycling. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though they are being carried out under the same contract.
Okay. Yeah. And so my only other question then is to do with the provincial grants. So elsewhere in the statements, I see that and in the budgeting process, we're budgeting more for pickup now moving forward. So I'm just wondering, was our material volume down? Is that why our provincial grants are down? Or because it's been a number of years that the grants have been pretty stable. So I was just a little bit surprised. It's not that it's gone down by a lot. What is it, $7,000 bucks, but.
So I believe this refers directly to the data call.
Yeah.
And this 20 or the actual previously actual, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, I know we budgeted 39.9 based on, the last few years. We've been relatively stable in that number. So it just surprised me a little bit that our grants have gone down. So it's
Well,
7,000 on this side, but it's also $7,000 on the waste side because we split it evenly.
did we receive all the payments that you know of?
I'll have to check. I know it was down a little bit and sometimes it's hard. They don't come out with. It's the provincial thing. So their year end is March.
Right.
So when they do the adjustment, sometimes we don't catch it for the budget ahead of time. And I know it's gone down, but I'll be budgeting for it to reduce this year.
Okay. As I say, it's not so much the 7. It's
And
when we look at one of these, it's really 14,000 because it's. split
And I'm
into
really
50.
not sure in the data call what the change is. We'd have to research that if that's of interest. At any rate, I think this particular grant's gonna disappear in 2025.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
And
Yep.
we did receive a very small, what they're calling a surplus of $400 this year, but we're supposed to get, as they're winding it down, we're supposed to be getting small amounts that they're spreading out to anybody that takes part, any municipality. I don't expect we're gonna get a ton of money if this one was $400. So, but we can expect maybe a little bit more next year.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Renaud?
Yes, just wondering, is the recycle that is picked up in the north end, does it go to our landfill or does it go right into Brockville? And is the same stuff picked up here as you're allowed to drop off at Greenbush?
So to answer your first question, the majority of the material picked up curbside will go to our landfill site on Depot, get dumped in bins there. And then from there, the bins are then taken to our MRF in Brockville. There are some instances where our bins at the landfill site are full. And the contractor will go directly to the MRF in Brockville. So it just depends on the day, basically.
Okay,
And to answer your second question, yes, it's the exact same material that is picked up is also permitted to be dropped off at the depot at the landfill.
okay, well, you say that, but that's not what actually happens. I'm hearing from people on the south end that they can't put things into recycle at Greenbush that I can put into my blue box here. I mean, there are some things that I'm wrong with, and he leaves them, he takes them out, he leaves them in the bin for me to put in garbage next week. But
Do you have specific examples of what they're saying can't be?
10-liter jugs are too big for the Greenbush recycle.
And they're being
And yet
told this
he'll-
on site?
Yep,
Our director will look into that for you, Councilor Renaud.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else, Councilor Renaud?
nope,
Councilor Brady?
I think an oil jug wouldn't go into,
No, yeah, that's right.
that's waste.
That's yeah.
Yeah, that goes in the garbage. And there's other plastics that doesn't go into the recycle because they're not recyclable.
Yeah, there's only certain grades of plastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So like whoever told you that's right and wrong.
I'll look into it though, okay?
okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the financial report? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Informational items, Anyone have anything underneath informational items for waste? Seeing none. Having public question period. Were there any questions regards to waste management? Hearing none, seeing none.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't know that there was a better place to do this, so I'll pose as a member of the public. There was some talk at one time of a third-party recycler coming in and locating a service in the secondary storage bin at the waste site. And so I see some blue bins there now. So is the service up and running?
Yes,
And that's been communicated.
that's electronic waste. It's all been promoted and yeah, there's some signage that has been ordered.
Okay.
That hasn't come in yet.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And electronics can go in there now?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, thank you.
Councilor Renaud?
Do you take batteries and ink cartridges as well, or
No.
just the electronics?
Just the electronics.
All right, thank you. All right, well, now we're going into the Public Works Committee, the whole portion of the meeting. Number 8, staff reports. This is report number A22-11. This is River Route Transit. Can I have a mover to receive this report? Mover and a seconder. Moved by Mayor Burrow, seconded by Councilor Pretty John. I'll go to the administrator clerk. Do you have anything you want to add to this report, madam?
Not really. We've been approached. The Director of Public Works and I did very briefly discuss it. We have noticed that this stop may already be advertised, that it is coming, but we felt that both the Director of Public Works and I felt that it would be best to discuss it with council to make sure that council is supportive of it.
Okay. Oh, so I had a mover and seconder, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Now I'll open it up. Councilor Renaud, I see your hand up.
Yeah, 2 questions. One, did the people in this area ask for it? And how much is Brockville expecting us to pay for this service? And I cannot figure, if you drove a car all the way to Howe's Apple Orchard, why in God's name would you get on a bus to go into town? Like, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. So somebody better make me understand.
Does someone want to try to answer that, Madam Clerk or Director of Public Works? Did you hear anything or know anything about it?
I don't really have a lot of information on this, so I'll defer to the administrator.
I am here. I do not know what's happened with my video. So anyway, I don't know. I have not heard of, nobody has contacted our office to state that they would like to see public transit stopping within our boundaries. On top of that, the location that it's at, they're asking, or they're saying we'll use private property for potential drop-off spots, which causes a bit of concern if we don't have that property owners sign off on it. As council, you're probably have your ear closer to the ground in order to determine whether people really want it or not. And if you haven't heard much from the recent news release, I mean, seriously, I have no idea.
All right, thank you, Councilor Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few years ago, we had a study on the very same thing, and it didn't fly then. And what Councilor Renaud alluded to is, why would you move to the country to get a country scene, the country feeling, and then expect the bus to come and pick you up, take you to town? And when you're driving to the bus depot, you might just want to go on into town and do your shopping. But I would be totally again.
Thank you. Mayor Burrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was just a very brief discussion of this at the St. Lawrence corridor, more as an FYI than anything else. It's not a corridor initiative. It was an initiative by sort of a subset of the members of the corridor, with the idea being that, the industrial workforce may be able to avail itself of this. I believe the thinking behind one of these particular stops near the Paul's Apple Orchard was so that the migrant workers that work there could get themselves into town for some of the services that are available in town. And just so that people do understand that it's not necessarily that you would be driving to the stop and then hopping on the bus there. This bus does interact at the transfer points in the Brockville transit system as well. So it's quite conceivable you could have somebody who was living in an apartment in Brockville and working at one of the industries in Cardinal. And so they wouldn't be driving there. They would be getting on the Brockville City Transit and then transferring to the River Route Transit and heading to work at Cardinal. Then the reverse trip at the end of their shift. That was the thought. So there hasn't been a financial ask at this point. If they're sort of seeking our blessing and our permission to have one located there, rather than just doing it without our permission, certainly I'm supportive of that. I don't think it's going to do us any harm. Before we committed any money, I would want to see the cost benefit of that. But I don't have a problem with either of these two stops being located in our board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Renaud, then I go to Councilor Freddie John. Councilor Renaud?
Okay, it makes a lot more sense now when the mayor's statement there, because this is not an extension of the Brockville bus service. This is a different bus service, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah.
And it's going in because there'd be no point in having a bus service that they're thinking the migrant workers are going to get on, because they won't. They have their own bus, their own transportation that has to be provided by the farmer to take them to town once a week to get what they need. They don't leave the farm in between. They don't want them mingling and taking off on them. So they have the transportation provided for them by the farmer to take them to town.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And I gotta go to Councilor Freddie John. Councilor Freddie John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other thing too is, like, not everybody drives. So let's just say, there's one driver and a group of seniors and they say, hey, you know what? I don't want to drive into Brockville, but we can pick up a bus and take off from Halls, park there and go in, do our shopping and come back, because they, maybe they just want to stay on the country roads. So it would kind of be a nice service for that as well. I mean, they don't even have to be a senior. Maybe they just don't want to drive in the city. And some people will consider Brockville, well, Brockville's getting busier. And so maybe it would be something like that as well. And I would imagine they'd have to pay for it. So I don't know how much we would have to sponsor it. I just think it's progress. Why not give it a try? Thank you.
Councilor Brayton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brockville, there's to be Brockville's buses, Brockville's gas, Brockville's drivers. They would get the money for it. And I can't see where the township would benefit financially anyway, shape or form. And they have migrant workers. They have a housing there for them. They're not going shopping every day of the week in Brockville, but they're there to work. And I can't see that the township, I know that we're supposed to supply services, not another bunch of stuff, and this would be a service. But I can't see where it would benefit the township financially, any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to chime in on this? Councilor Linton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just
Lost you.
Jesus, goes not very well.
Councillor Lynn, if you can hear me, you broke up and you went dead for a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead. It's unfortunate that Councillor Lynn can't get in. There's been a few, just to recap a little bit, there's been a couple comments made with regards to this. And one is the property. It's not township property that these two requests have been asked for as far as the pickup spot. So there is some liability with that. The township's going to have any support in it. The other thing is the close proximity to the stop, which is already at the superstore in Brockville. So I don't know where it's really going to benefit people who are going to, if they need a ride to Prescott or Augusta or Everett Cardinal, they're going to have to drive to get to a depot to pick up the ride on the bus. And the superstore is just down the road. It's not that far to catch a ride there. Councilor Brain is correct. This was discussed, a few years ago in regards to transit. And you look at Councilor Brain's made a comment about Dence's Farm and Tin Cap. We don't have a transit in 29 Highway, which is a very populated area. If you look at Highway 2 west in the township, a very populated area as well, that may benefit getting people into Brockville. But I just don't know how this little area here is going to really benefit our residents to the township. Nice to have, but I don't know how it's going to take place. And then the comment made about financially, well, I'm sure there will be a financial cost. We just don't know what. So I guess the question is, it's just to receive the report for now. But if the consensus is we're not really all in favor of interested to move forward, well, then staff doesn't need to make much more work to it. But just didn't know where you want to go with this. Councillor Pretty John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm not part of the consensus. I think that we should look into it a little bit further. I can't hurt, and it doesn't have to always be bringing money into the township. It could be a service to some of our residents. So I'm not part of a consensus not to do it. Thank you.
Councillor Renaud.
I just want to know if we got to put any money into it and then know if it's going to be of any benefit to the residents. That's all I wanted. Like, I'm not against the bus stop. If it's going by, makes sense. But what are they expecting from us? And I can't imagine that they're not expecting something from us. And maybe that's just because I'm cynical. But we just need to know that. And it would make so much more sense if they were offering bus service from Tin Cap or Lynn into town, where everybody can just walk to it and go to town. But anyhow, I think Sue's right. We need more information. If they want to go ahead, they better have consent from the spots where they're stopping, because it's not our property.
Okay, Councillor Lynn, you want to try to get back on there?
Try this again. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Just Councillor Renaud, we're really lacking in information about this subject. It would be good. There's a lot of things here we don't know. You know what I mean? What the implications of private property are, what the cost, you know what I mean? I think there should be a lot more information about this. Thanks.
Okay. All right, all we're doing tonight anyway is just receiving the report, but Councillor Brady, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should have some of the public have some input. And nobody's even asked for it. So I don't know why we're getting all excited and think that it'd be a great thing. Maybe it would be, but nobody's asking for it. So does that not tell you something?
Good.
Thank you.
Good comments. Thank you. All those in favor of receiving the report? Opposed, carried. Thank you. 8.2, this is report number PW 22-02 Lynn Valley Bridge options. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? Moved by Councillor Linton, second by Councillor Edie. Director of Public Works, is there anything you'd like to add to this report?
Yes, there is. There's one thing. Option 3, or in regards to option 3, I had a conversation today with the fire chief about that option, and he had a concern. The only concern that he had was in regards to the access to the dry hydrant at the pond. There were workarounds for that, but the other thing to add in regards to this option 3 is that I did analyze the travel time specifically for fire, and it basically is a 1 minute increase if in fact Murphy Road was the main road for them. But it is a 6 minute increase for all of the travelers, just based on where the road is cut off and to get back to that same point. So.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, Councillor Edie?
I had a question about option 1, where you put in the cons that would not address any bridge and road alignment issues. Is that like the size of the road so that you can make a bridge bigger, or what issues are there?
That actually is specifically the way the road right now, the way the road kind of bends and curves. It's not ideal with there being a bridge structure there. It's okay from a speed standpoint because it is posted down. But whenever you proceed with a project like this, you look to not only improve the bridge, but the approaching road coming either way.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Edie.
So second question then, for option 2, when you did the new road alignment, do you know who owns that property? Is that the Conservation Authority on that side, or is that public, or?
I believe it's the Conservation Authority, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Member Earl?
Yeah, just a lot of interesting things to consider. The two that interest me the most are the two that would not see that road fully closed. So in other words, option 1 would involve quite an inconvenience. It on the surface of things, it might seem like option 3 also involves full closure, but it doesn't really, because we would be upgrading the new permanent route before the bridge was closed. So I personally am favoring taking a look at the options that keep the traffic flowing. I'm really intrigued by option 3. I think I'd like to see that one stay on the table. That's basically $1.5 million conversation that we ought to be having with the community to get some feedback on how the people feel about that. When you first look at it in the first 10 seconds, it seems like a shocking thing to think about. But as you start to think it through and the value that there is there, I think it's a conversation we already had. And there is precedent for it in other municipalities of rerouting, existing roads and that type of thing. So I would hate to just see it taken off the table. I think we should at least pursue that to its logical end. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Renaud.
Yeah, for option 3, I have a question. So the closure portion of Lynn Valley Road, where you have the red line, who owns on both sides of that road? Are we taking someone's ability to build a house anywhere along there if we close that road? Is that private property? Is it owned by the Conservation Authority on both sides? What?
I'm gonna have to look into that, Counselor. I'm not sure who actually owns the property on the right or the left side, which would be, I guess, west side. So I will have to look into it and I can report back.
Okay, because I like that Murphy Road idea, but I just thought if I owned land along there, I'd be very upset that I now have no options because now my road's gone.
Councillor Linton?
Just on that point of if that road was closed there, I think from and
You're breaking up, Councillor Linton.
Start again.
If you can hear us, we lost you.
on the Howe Hill. Okay, or
Try it again.
Maybe suggested to turn off his camera.
Can you turn your camera off? Is that a suggestion? And see if that helps?
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I think from where the creek flows under that bridge, there's going to be quite a setback from the center of that creek outwards that there's no way you could build anyways.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Brayton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, I brought this up before, and I don't know whether this is the right time to do it or not. But in light of all the work that is in that agenda, would we be further off to get higher engineering firm to so much an hour for all the jobs? With like it, here we got the bridge and then we got roads, and we do get an engineering firm. They've got to know bridges and roads and all that kind of stuff. So would we not be better off to hire somebody like we have a lawyer and hire that retained? So would we be further off to get an engineer retained to have that we would use? How would I'm just asking. I think maybe this is a good time to do it. But
Okay. Director?
Well, I think our procurement policy for any items like that, we have to be open to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's possible that we could put out an RFP for feasibility study of the options that we have here and potentially other options.
I don't see where we could.
And it could be tied directly to then to proceed with the actual engineering portion of the work that we would choose. So it's no different than any RFP that I would issue for the engineering for the work. It just we would add the options.
It would be just that you could pick up the phone and say, so-and-so, I want this, give me a price. That would be.
No, we have to do an RFP.
You do.
For
Can I?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
If I
Why-
may,
How come you don't have to do that for a lawyer then?
if I may,
Madam Clerk, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
there is an opportunity similar to our legal firm, is that we could put out a general RFP for engineering firms to provide us with advice based on a per monthly basis. It's like a holding fee. I honestly cannot, a retention fee that is paid on a monthly basis, and that we could access the engineering firm for the various jobs that we have. Other municipalities have done so that we basically have an engineer in our back pocket, so that if the director of public works requires an answer on something, they can send it on. We do basically the same thing for planning consultants. So there is an opportunity for it.
And wouldn't that save a lot of time?
it would save time, except in big projects where your run-of-the-mill questions would be answered. But big projects may provide a little bit of more of a challenge.
Mr. Chair, I just think it's makes sense to have one in your back pocket or whatever, that you could talk to, and it would save time, and we do need an engineer quite bad. And that's my thinking. But thank you, Director, Mr. Chair.
So just to add a little bit to that, I mean, depending on where this project goes, I think a public consultation process would be required regardless. If there is appetite to decommission the bridge, then definitely I think we would be remiss if we did not engage the public before doing that. So that's another aspect where the engineer gets involved to create the plans and create the presentation for us to give to the public. So again, I would still be doing that through an RFP process.
Thank you. Councillor Linton?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just on your point, Charles, I think if there's any kind of consensus in the committee at all of the looking at the part number 3, I would be in favor of looking at that too. And I would never be in favor of it without public consultation, especially on something like that. But I think that would be the first step before we go hiring anybody to do anything. I think that we would go to those people and go through the process of finding out their thoughts on that. Just my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pretty John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councillor Linton, getting the opinion of the public first. And I caution us to get any consultation reports or any engineering reports that we aren't going to go ahead and do what they say, because we had that with our 6th concession and then we decided that, well, we're not going to follow that, maybe we'll change it. So I think we should do a public opinion poll first. I like number 3. Maybe, the public come up with a better idea, but if we do get an engineering study and they say to do this is the best way, I think this time maybe we should listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mayor Burrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just briefly on that. I understand where the 2 previous speakers are coming from in terms of not wanting to go through the time and the expense of getting the engineering presentation done for something that we may not pursue. The only reason my perspective is a little bit different is having gone through the process with the MTO around the Alex Road Bridge, and I can better appreciate the value of being able to discuss all those questions and answers, because they've sort of been studied and those answers are available. I can well imagine that the public is going to hit us with questions that we won't have the answers to, and that may negatively impact, the message that they send to us. And, they're going to say, well, I think A, B, or C is going to happen, and no, I wouldn't want that. Well, if we go through the engineering ahead of time and we can present to them the reality of this is what option 3 would look like, this is what option 1 would look like if that's what we choose, whatever, so we get it down similar to what the MTO did with the Alex Road Bridge. We get it down to our 2 favorite options, and we present that as part of a community engagement. And then I think at least we get the most meaningful feedback from them that we can. I think that's the fairest or the most fair thing to do for the people. I would just hate to have sort of an open forum where out of the 10 questions we get, the answer is, I don't know, we'll get back to you. That's going to be frustrating for everybody. So that's just my input on that process. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? The only comment I make with number 3 is the idea of paving Murphy Road versus a surface treatment application based on the cost. With number 2, I think that's a very costly adventure, getting into property and rebuilding a new road and everything else. So it's 1 and 3, but as we're doing tonight is we're just receiving report. A lot of good information has been received to our staff, so. Is there anything else? Do you want a direction?
Yeah, I would just like to know, like, we do have money in the budget being carried over from last year to do certain level of engineering on this project. I would like to be able to know, and maybe it can wait till next, till March. But I think we are gonna need to know how to proceed with this. If it is procuring the services of an engineer to help us with the open house and put together high level concepts for these options and like all that, that's one thing. Or if it is just, we're going to replace the bridge, and I just need to know that we're just going to replace the bridge, and that's another scope of work. So, I mean, if we want to sit on this until March, that's fine. But at least by then I would need to. So
I'll just make a comment. We were all well aware that the Lynn Valley Bridge was up to be replaced. I think people on the committee knew that. The information is in front of us. I didn't hear too many people in favor of number 2 option. So I think we're down to number 1 or the number 3. A lot of people are consensus was number 3 was more favorable consensus. So I'll ask the question: is this an option you wish our staff to proceed with getting engineers involved in? At Burl.
Yeah, so I've been sitting for a couple of minutes on the point that you made about the surface treatment, and I think actually you just managed to turn a spotlight onto why it's probably important to get the engineers involved to present us with what does that option 3 really look like. Because as I think about it, Lynn Valley Road and Halleck's Road, that it turns into, are all fully paved roads right now. And so if the concept is to replace the traffic flow or replace the missing bridge with traffic flow along Murphy Road, then I'm not an engineer, but just no pun intended on the surface of things, I think we should be providing a fully paved permanent alternate route to what we're taking away. But the engineers may have something different to say. They may provide us with all the reassurance we need that surface treatment would be fine. So I think it's an ideal point on which to sort of pivot and say, yeah, there is the value of actually having the study done and having a lot of the answers up front, so that when we get the questions, we can keep rolling forward. So I think it's intriguing enough. I'd like to see us pursue it. I don't want to commit to it to say this is the way we're going to go, but I'm intrigued by, let's go to the next step. Thanks.
Yeah, Director.
So is it safe to say, so just to speak to your comment there, Mr. Mayor, that is exactly why I put down asphalt, is because we're taking away asphalt, and like I can't see us doing anything but putting asphalt on that road. If we're going to be, if we're most comfortable with option 1 and 3, is it safe to say then that proceeding with an RP to look at those options, is that the direction? Okay.
So just that's the question. I'll take a show of hands. Is everyone in favor of looking at option 1 and 3? All in favor of that? Okay, it's carried. So that's that. You had another question, Councilor Renaud?
When would we be talking to the public? After we get an engineer's report or before?
After the report, after the engineer has given us all the information as much as possible.
Another question.
If we have the public consultation before we have the engineering report, we're going to say we don't have the answers. We have to ask the engineer. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, another question. If we went with option 3, would Lynn Valley Road be able to be left open for foot and bicycle traffic?
No, it'll be closed completely. There would be no way of getting over top of the creek.
Or you could drive down to the creek.
Well, I just thought, you know, the bridges
Road will be closed. but
could handle a bicycle. No, I just wondered if it would
Just-
still be,
Yeah, Director. go
Just
ahead.
a comment to that. I mean, I have visions of possibly being able to block the road at either end and create it somewhat like a walking trail through there.
Yeah.
But we would have to be that would be a question for the engineer. If the bridge would be even allowed to leave it in place. We may not even be allowed to leave it in place.
okay, that was all I wanted to know.
Just a minute, go to Councillor Linton, then to you. Councillor Linton?
I was just going to make the comment about in the city of Brothel, there's 3 different bridges where they've done just that. They've actually removed the traffic from the bridge, actually put up the concrete barriers, and they allow walking traffic back and forth. So and that's a great point, Charles. I think it'd be a good thing to ask the engineer if we could do that. And if that was suitable, I'd be in favor. I'd be in favor of number 3 if that's possible, but it's again with the engineering knowledge and then going to the people, that would be my interest. Thanks.
Councillor Brady?
Thank you. That house is down on the bottom of the hill on the right-hand side. Is he gonna have a bicycle to get down home, or is he going to be able to drive down there? Is there not a house at the bottom of the hill? You know where them apartments are on the left-hand side? You go down the hill. Isn't there a house down there on the right-hand side?
By the Lynn Pit?
Yeah, across from Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're gonna block him off, you're gonna have him.
No.
So, you know, he'd be able to drive.
He would still have access.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering that.
Yeah.
We would block the road off on the opposite side of the main Lynn Pen access area.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the red report? Opposed, carried. Now we're on to 8.3, that's report PW 22-03, that's proposed 2022 Public Works Capital Plan. I have a mover and a second to receive this report. Moved by Mayor Burrow, seconded by Councillor Renaud. Director of Public Works, is there anything you want to add to this report?
No.
I'll open up the floor for any questions, comments. Mayor Burrow.
Okay, I have several, but I think a lot of them are sort of one-liners and should be fairly simple. So on the second page of the report, in the new initiatives list, number 1, the slip-in material spreader. So it talks about standing and salting narrow roadways, parking lots, and so on. How are we accomplishing that right now, or are we? Are we relying on a contractor to do our parking lots and so on? So I just need a little bit of context around that.
Right now, we have 2.
8.3.
We have 2 single axle dump trucks in our fleet that we would be utilizing for those tight areas, like the narrow roads. Those 2 single axles are stationed to work the river roads anyway, which tend to be narrower and so on. And whenever we do have parking lots to do, that's what we would have previously used, would be the single axle.
You may sense a theme as I go through my questions here, but I'm trying to pick out in my mind the things that we can be doing and should be doing this year, the things that we can put off a year. If this was a year where, Canadian inflation wasn't over 4.5% and we weren't at a challenging budget, maybe just say yes to the whole laundry list, but I'm looking for the reasonable things. So moving on to the the next page, I just, not so much a question to the director, but as far as the portable steamer is concerned, in my own mind, that's a no-brainer. I view that as a safety and a liability issue. If we're not able to clean up the culverts properly, I don't want to be taking a chance on that piece of equipment. But down to number 5, so the roads need study. You know how I feel about the one that we already have. I'm not going to belabor that point. That's not why I'm about to ask this next question. What are the implications of continuing to rely on that particular study or your own familiarity now with our road system for one more year? Is this, you know, this is a fairly large ticket item. Is this something that we really need to consider this year? And so I guess my question is, what are the implications of pushing that off into next year?
Well, the implication of pushing it off, I don't really think there's a big implication of pushing it off. However, it is 5 years old. The information that is in that report, as we all are aware, is not as reliable as we would like it to be. We are implementing a new asset management plan. A big part of that plan is going to be roads. The information that would come from this report would be unnecessary to properly put that plan into place. So with all that said, I wouldn't recommend pushing it off.
All right. Number 6, you're talking about replacing the 2 roll-off bins at the waste site. Are they both equally bad? Is there an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to do the worst one this year and we'll do the second one next year?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. I probably have some few other good questions, but I don't want to hog the microphone, so I'll yield and then maybe.
Councilor Brighton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm with you, Mr. Mayor. Our capital, roads capital for this year, and our wish list is over $3 million, and I don't know where the money's coming from. And if somebody can tell me where we're hiding $3 million, and there's going to be more than 1 or 2 projects that are going to be sitting in them and waiting for another year or maybe 2 years, because we got to maintain what we got. If we don't maintain, we're going to be really behind the 8 ball. So, like, I just can't see that we can do everything that. I know everybody has a wish list, but we're trying to keep our taxes down. We said 4, now it's 4.5, and I think that I'd say 4 or 3.5 would be more up my line. And I just, it's just got to stop. Like it's not feasible. It just isn't. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilor Renaud.
Just something the mayor said about the interest rate being what it is this year. Does he not think it'll be even higher next year if we're putting things off till next year? Will we have any more money next year? Is some fairy going to give us more money next year? If we have to borrow money and pay interest, I think today it is what it is, but by this time next year, it could be twice as high. Who knows? Because I know it's going to go up, but by how much? So I'm just wondering on your thinking around, well, it's 4% now, but we shouldn't do things.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, there we're all.
So I think the next couple of questions are probably directed towards our director of finance. Am I correct in my understanding that the gas tax is being topped up again this year, or we haven't received any announcement like that at this point? So it is still sort of, we should have in mind our sort of regular allocation that we've been used to. Okay, all right. so that's one. Unrelated to that, in the report, so it's at page 31 of our agenda. So after the list of the new initiatives, at the bottom paragraph, it talks about if accepted, the cost of the road program will be 1.63 million. And I'm just wondering, I tried to reconcile that against the table on the first page of the report. I'm wondering, there seems to be a $55,000 discrepancy. So I'm just wondering if something in that table should not be counted as capital, or if that figure in the last paragraph should really be 1,685, not 1,630 for Director of Public Works.
So I believe the 1.63 is based on all the roads that are identified in the first table minus House Road South.
Okay.
Plus the recommendation to include the Airport Road and the Hillcrest Road.
Okay. All right.
Because that was part of the recommendation from staff.
Okay.
Yep. Part of the report.
Okay, so that pre-answers another question I had down around there. So then the other thing is that to our Director of Finance, I think, no, it was a very preliminary budget presentation that we had early on. We talked that the starting line was 5.5. Staff still had some work to do to try and achieve council's goal and directive. That's fine. But I'm wondering, the pre-approval of truck 2, for instance, was that already factored into the 5.5 starting line that you told us about, or is the 309,000 for that pre-approved truck going to drive that up even further?
The presentation was strictly operating at 5.5.
Oh, okay, so it's not an overall 5.5. It's
No,
simply 5.5 on the operating side of things.
yes. Which is
Okay.
a percentage of the budget, so it wouldn't mean, unless the capital budget comes in 5.5, we're not looking at
Right.
5.5.
Gotcha.
If you got what I'm saying.
Okay, yep. So now that makes that pretty
And-
clear.
And before I walked in here, I'm sitting at 5 overall, so I still have some work to do, but I'll have something this week that looks more like 4. We'll work together.
Okay. And so my final question for this round around that is, so I now understand the 1.63. I understand the very last figure, the 2.1 million. But what I'm sort of missing now, and perhaps I should have this off the top of my head, is we had 1% of the previous year's levy to guide us and so on. What is our target capital figure?
Is it 4 or is it, is it 4%? The cost of doing the capital work is gonna be the cost of living on top of whatever.
Right.
Council did commit to 1%, so I'm trying to work toward a 4% overall
Okay.
in capital and in operating.
Okay. All right. So that'll obviously come clear probably in the next round. Okay.
I think we're there with what we've got. We may have a little bit of tweaking to do, but Charles and I'll have some discussions, just even based on some of the things you pointed out, that maybe a way to cut it down to the 4.
Okay. So the 2.1 is sort of the figure that you're still working on, maybe a little bit to achieve the 4, or that 2.1 is already blowing the 4 out of the water.
So it's for roads, I have 1.1 in the capital right now, coming out of the operating, or coming from taxation.
Okay.
Which provides 2.698 million worth of capital.
Okay, perfect. All right. That rounds out the picture for me. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, just to touch on something Mayor Burrow stated. So when we had that budget presentation, it was just operating only, which was at that 5 point whatever, which actually comes down to 2 point some percent or something like that overall. Now you put the capital into that. Another thing I want to touch on was the gas tax funding. We're not indicating right now what of these road projects are going to be covered by gas tax versus taxation. Go ahead.
I have allocations in the budget that I will be presenting.
Okay. I just mean like in this right now, when we look at this, we're looking at this saying this is
Yeah.
all taxation.
And that's the difference between $2.698 million worth of capital work
Mhm.
as opposed to the 1.1 being collected from the taxpayer.
All right, just an overall comment. So when I'm looking at the list of road projects, I look at New Dublin Road for an example. So we have New Dublin Road from County Road 28 to the 7th concession. Then we go from the 7th concession on the County Road 28, 200 meters east of New Dublin. Then we got New Dublin Road 7th concession and 6th concession. But lo and behold, down at the bottom, the next grouping of 4 is the remainder of New Dublin Road, which is the 6th concession to County Road 29. You know, I look at New Dublin Road, and I look at New Dublin Road as one major project. We're gonna do so much of it, and then all of a sudden we're gonna stop. And I know that staff has looked at this, and you're suggesting that we do Hillcrest Road, and we'll go on Airport Road or something, yeah, Airport, Hillcrest, in lieu of Alex Road South. What I'm saying is that, why are we doing so much in Dublin, and all of a sudden we come to a stop, 6th concession? Why wouldn't we carry on and just finish it all in one and be done with it? If you personally, the whole road almost to the I'll call it the S turn, where the residential area starts to build up. That section of road needs to be done. That's just how I look at it. I drive the road, but that's just me. That's all I'm saying, is that when I'm looking at it, I'd rather see the whole road done, and then we never have to worry about the Dublin Road for 15 years, we hope. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's-
Go ahead, Director.
And I mean, the only reason why Airport Road ended up on the top of our list was just the overall condition of that section of Airport Road that I am identifying there is a lot worse than that section of New Dublin Road from 6 to 29. A little bit of trying to spread the wealth around as well, not put everything into one area. I also understand your idea of just, we're already there, let's get it all done. That makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Airport Road. This has been a disgrace for a number of years. I don't disagree with that. I'm just pointing out the Dublin Road, for example, to say, we're going so far down the road for another 2 kilometers to be all done.
That final section from 6 to 29 is newer. And cutting off at 6 concession, that's a great point, right? I mean, if you're gonna stop, you're better off to stop just short of the intersection, and then the next year or the year after, carry on and do that.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that was the logic.
Well, that's fine. Just throw my thoughts up.
Oh, yeah.
Councilor Brayton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a thought too. Kind of ironic that this wish list that we got here is Old Red Road, the 2nd concession, Airport Road, and I'm just thankful that I live on a county road. That's all I have to say.
Councilor Brayton, I think you're jumping a little bit ahead of yourself. I think you're looking at 6.8 to comment on that one. If I recall.
I commented.
That's fine. Well, that's okay. Right, Earl?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a quick thing. It's funny. I went through the same thought process that you did about the Dublin Road, and you've heard me say it before. It's, why wouldn't we just keep going and get it done? And And then I started to think about this a little bit differently. So I guess I'm looking for a little bit of reassurance if that's the way we head. I don't have a problem doing that. Looking for a little bit of reassurance if you can give it to us from our Director of Public Works. Right now, all of these 4 options that we're discussing are proposed for asphalt overlay, not a pulverize and full replacement. What I would hate to see is for all the good reasons of just continuing down the Dublin Road and get it all done on one project. Then we turn around in a year or two, when we get back to Airport Road, and we find that its condition has now gone past the tipping point, and instead of a 325,000 overlay job, now it's a pulverize and replace. So if that's part of the reason that you picked Airport Road, then, you know, I can get behind that logic all day long. I never want to put something off to the point where, you know, we double the cost of the project. Even though the logic that we discussed for New Dublin Road is good, I just don't want to find that we regret that decision. So if you can provide a little bit of context around.
No, we're not going to lose airport. I shouldn't say that. I don't anticipate that we would lose Airport Road in a year. Could we have a bad spring? And similar to what happened on Green Lake Road last year, that may happen, but that can happen on any road. So no, that was not part of my, because I mean, it's so close. We're talking about a year or two. That was not part of my thought process.
Okay, good, thanks.
Councilor Brayton. Director of Public Works, this overlay of this spray and you mentioned in here, there's 2 or 3 different kinds of it. Some of the counties, they tar the road, put sand on it, and you can still see the cracks in it. And the next year they can do it again. These in Granville, they done 29 highway, 2 or 3 pieces of it, quite long stretches. And I don't know, you can still see the cracks up through that. And I know what I'm hearing, it is not proven to be that great a remedy. Would it be possible, do you think, that we get a couple of stretches of a couple of roads and have them do the kilometer to see how it would wear and see if that's what we want, or if should we do it right to start with, which would be put an overlay over it. But I think you might know that different, Rob, but I don't think that police in Grenville are using that much anymore. I know that Edwardsburg put a big stretch of it. No, it was Augusta put a big stretch of it in, and it didn't prove. And I don't think they went back to it. So I just wondered if before we started spending a lot of money on something that is not working, whether we should be doing that or not.
So
Would that sound right?
Councilor Braden, I think I'll be addressing those questions when we get to report 7. Because I believe you're referring to the asphalt preservation work.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we're not there yet.
And that sand and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'll be talking about that when we get down to that report.
Yeah, I don't think it's working too good. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's only one thing, and it's been talked about at the waste site when I'm there every couple of weeks. Is could it be possible that we put asphalt in front of our bin area with the vehicles back up to, instead of walking through spot?
It's definitely possible. I would caution. Oh, I guess we did find out that we're not getting the funding for the scales.
Modernization.
Yeah. I was always holding off of doing anything like that until we knew if we were going to be getting scales. And like, I guess my hesitation still exists, because I mean, yeah. Can we do it? Yes, we can. It's not something I have looked at. But it definitely, absolutely. I would have to analyze it and come up with a cost.
No, that's fine. I understand that. Like, I didn't do any measurements for the cost myself. I'm just saying, when you're there and the public uses it quite a bit.
Mhm.
Is one asset that many residents are paying for and use, and you see them getting out of their vehicles and they're walking through the soup kind of thing. It is a mess, and I just thought if that's going to be something we could do to preserve and upgrade the waste site, it'd be much appreciated. Not saying we do it this year, but I think it's something we should put on the radar. Remember,
So not to get down into the weeds, it, as an alternative to paving, is it possible, it seems to me that when we put the sand and the salt down for winter control there, that sort of ends up getting packed down, the fines get packed down, almost seals the surface. Is there any value to I don't know what you call the process, just churning up the surface so we have gravel up top so the water sort of gets down below the gravel and starts to drain?
We applied gravel in that at various times throughout the year.
Okay.
That's not a
Okay.
problem.
okay, Director.
So I just, the biggest takeaway from this report for me was kind of focusing back onto in lieu of Hawks Road South. What direction does the committee want to go? I know my recommendation is there, but that's just me. So that's the biggest takeaway for me from this, because we need to know that to proceed. So
I'm not disputing the recommendation with the airport road. I do believe it needs to be done. Comment the Mayor Burrows has made, I do support his comment about, geez, we do it now, and then all of a sudden, you know, something tears up, we have to rip it all up. It's a road that's been in disrepair. I don't disagree with that. Hillcrest Road, being only $70,000, I'm not, you know, just a drop in the bucket, but that's okay. The only reason why I brought the new Dublin Road up was because of the continuation. So I have no problem with the recommendation. If we can find another 310,000 somewhere, we can finish the Dublin Road, but I'm okay with that. Any comments from anyone else? I think you got the direction from that. So we're gonna go ahead with your recommendation of the airport road at Hillcrest.
Yeah, are we, okay, so I guess, Mr. Mayor, like, are we at this point 100% certain that Halifax overpass is not happening?
Well, I was prepared to nod my head for you until you said 100%. We're 99.9%. And as a matter of fact, I've got another meeting with the MTO scheduled tomorrow afternoon.
that's to be enough. That's fine.
So-
That's fine.
Yeah, I think the chances of it happening this year are essentially nil, because they can't move that fast. The industry can't respond that fast to be ready to do it in the guarantee 8-month time limit, right? So that's really what they're focused on now is they're wanting to assure us that that is not going to be closed for the year and a half. They don't need the extra season contingency. They've got this down to a science in other places, and so if they get started early enough, they are guaranteeing me they get it done in 8 months. And so that's what we need to work on. Let's say, yes, it's going into 2023 for the bridge. So we don't have to do Halifax Road until 2023. Everybody's aware that those two things should happen in concert.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
Are they gonna do Alex West?
can't tell you that yet. So got another meeting tomorrow. So until I see a signature on a check, I'm not willing to say yes. But what I will say is that all the discussions that I've had so far, including a delegation of Roma with the minister and her staff and so on, everything has been going well since we started to make our presence well known. But we're headed in a good direction. Ready?
I think if they're gonna close the road, that they should come up with some money for the pay that.
Well, that road is one concern, because it becomes an emergency response route for getting onto the Long Beach intersection, for sure. And there's also the big impact on the fire response time. So those are the two major points that we're still in discussions about with the MTO, but they are responding well. I gotta get them right.
Okay. I don't see more hands, so all in favor of this report? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Now we're on to 8.4, the report PW 2204 Public Works Radio System Upgrade. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Brayton, second by Councilor Lynn. Director of Public Works, do you have anything you want to add to this report?
No, I do not.
Any questions from anybody from the committee? Mayor Burrow.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick one. So the mention here of the bidirectional amplifier improving cellular and improving Wi-Fi capabilities. So we're not talking about improving our internet connection at those two locations, just the Wi-Fi with the connection once.
Did we lose the director?
No, he's right here.
Hello?
Yeah,
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Eleanor? No?
she's probably muted her speakers. That happened once before.
Can anybody hear the office?
We
Yeah,
can't.
everybody can, but
I can't.
here's.
Yep.
I'll make a sign.
Yeah, it's something at her end. Okay, okay, fair enough. Because I was gonna say, if it's gonna improve everything, then let's just get it done. Let's not wait. But that's okay. If it's only for the radio communications. So again, just looking for some context. What sort of impediments are there right now with the unreliable signal that you have? Is it causing issues, or is it mostly reliable, but it cuts out sometimes? I'm just looking for a sense.
Well, specifically at the New Dublin shop, the base station there, if we didn't have Wi-Fi, it wouldn't work.
Okay,
It would not work at all. There's no cellular signal. That's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
I'm inside that building, and that's just a product of the building itself.
okay.
But right now, there's been very little disruption because the Wi-Fi has been working and everything's been okay. Now we are also looking at improving the service going into the building with the provider. What's their names again? Choose Speed.
Right.
And that could be happening here, like within the next little while. And
Okay.
that might. And I just didn't want to just do this for the sake of it. I would rather have evidence that it needed to be there. So
I appreciate the prudence. I don't want our fleet operations to be putting up with something. If you added another zero to that, we'd have a longer conversation. But it's not that 5,000 per building for a total of 10 is a trivial expense. But I don't want you to have 5 days worth of disruption out of a year for the sake of $5,000.
No.
So okay,
I would never let that happen.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions regarding this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. 8.5, that's report PW 22-05, that's 2022 significant budget. So I have a mover and a seconder for this report. Moved by Councilor Eady, seconded by Councilor Linton. Director, is there anything you want to add to this list?
No. Thank you.
Open the floor up. Any questions, comments regarding this report?
Okay.
Mayor Burrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I just want to offer a number of positive comments, actually. I'm excited to see our building maintenance fund going up so that we stop losing things that we should be maintaining. Same thing with the gravel. I'm thrilled to see that number back up here. For years, I sat out in the public gallery, and that was the go-to account to help balance a budget each year it was, oh, if we need 50,000, well, we'll go and route out of gravel. So I'm glad to see us getting back to maintaining our plant the way that it should be. The one concern I do have, one question I do have is around the roadside maintenance, the ditching subcontractors. I know that we capture a lot of the ditching in projects, which is great for when we're doing work in a particular area. But maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I get the sense that we've got other areas that are not slated for projects where certainly the residents' quality of life could be enhanced by us getting there and doing some ditching. And maybe even, you know, the longevity of the road, if the water can drain away properly. And so on. So I'm a little bit concerned to see the ditching figure reduced. Again, it's only $5,000. It's not so much about the dollar. It's just, I guess it's what it's telegraphing in terms of our work plan. So make me feel better about that. If you can.
I'm not sure I can.
Okay.
It's a lot can be done with 15 grand. Still, except for when we encounter rock. And I think you can appreciate the majority. Yeah, I would say the majority of the ditching issues that we have in the township are there due to the presence of rock. That 15,000, that 20,000, that 50,000 would get eaten up real quick if we were to do lengthy section of road by having to remove 2 feet of rock. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It just becomes a much more major project. It would be outside of the scope of operating.
And you know, I don't want to steal the thunder from my colleague, Councillor Brayton. I'd be surprised if he doesn't put his hand up right after me. But I've listened again, both as a member of the public and since I got into council, you know, quite rightly so. Ditching is a pet project, and I seem to recall it's $65,000 sitting in a ditching budget that never got used for 2 or 3 years, and so that suggested to me that the work never got done. So, you know, figures of 20,000 down to 15, unless I'm wrong in my memory about that.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but all right. Well, fair enough. If this will accomplish the work that we can do on a practical level, then okay, I'll settle that. Thanks.
Anyone else? Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The mayor is right. Like if we have a road and we don't have ditches, and you can't get a base unless you have ditches to get rid of the water, it doesn't lay on it and whatever. So we have been pretty prudent in years forward after of doing ditching and getting away with what we had.
Any other comments? Just to touch on the brushing side of things. So with our new rubber tire excavator we got with our brush head on it and everything else, our staff internally is going to be doing a lot more of that work instead of going out to contracts. So that's the reason why it's reduced down. It'll be very much appreciated with more brushing done as well.
Well, ditching isn't brushing.
No, I know that, but the brushing's in there too. The increase of the gravel maintenance increase in 2.5. Where is this? Oh, sand. Okay, winter sand gone. Increase for the sand salt winter control 262 to 320. What was the increase on salt or the increase on sand?
Well, like I said in here, this is mostly based on what we have been actually spending the last three years.
Oh, okay.
And what it's another product of, or it's another example of where I mean, a winter off is always very difficult to plan, right? So I think the idea was to just never really change it because, except for the annual increase, because you never know what's going to happen. But when I looked at it for the last 3 years, we were spending well over $300,000 overall. So, but it also allows us to do the sand treatment at the Toledo Dome, which is what we would need to do anyway. So.
I'm just looking at, another 60,000 different.
Oh, I know. But if you look at the actuals,
Yeah, I know some winter, we didn't have much for winter and the numbers were down, right?
correct.
If I recall back a number of years ago, we never had put those dollars and cents away into that reserve. It went to a general reserve.
Right.
So
Now I could have egg on my face next year when we spend $190,000.
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't know.
well, that's okay. All right, all those in favor of the report? Opposed, carried. All right, that's that. Now we're on to 6.8, that's the P report. PW 22-07, asphalt roadway preservation. Director, you want to add anything to your report?
Yes, just to kind of comment on more so the reason why I brought this report. It's more to bring to the attention of the group something that the township has not been doing for some time, and that's that low cost preservation work on our asphalts. And yeah, we do lots of lots of asphalt overlaying. We do lots of just pulverizing paving and that kind of thing. But I also understand, and this is the case with a lot of municipalities around here. This is the type of thing that tends to get cut. So it's just something that I think we need to start to put money towards by itself, like having a asphalt preservation program that has an allocation every year, and we assign roads every year to do a number of treatments, not just one. I don't want everyone to think that I'm just like set on one type. Each condition would warrant a specific type of treatment. This all came from my conversation with this company.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Councilor Brayton had his questions. Any more you want to add on to your?
No, I guess as long as the county looks after me, I guess I'll be all right.
Any more, Director?
Well, just specifically to comment on Councilor Brayton's comments earlier, I believe what the councillor was referring to was the CRF that the county did. Not even sure how long ago it was now, but I know that the feedback was not good on that specifically, because it is supposed to be somewhat considered an alternative to crack sealing, and it just didn't do it. And I've seen it because the County Road 20 that I live on or live off of received the same treatment, and it didn't work.
Borough?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the one thing that I would like the committee and the director to consider is, I think this is great, 100% behind this initiative. But I think we will do, I'm going to put this in the following order on purpose. We're going to do our residents a disservice and ourselves a disservice if we don't have a nice, strong, clear communication plan around this. Because if residents see equipment or the condition of a road change or the color, or like if they see work going on the road, and in their minds they're living on a road that hasn't seen any activity for 15 years, and then they look around the corner and there's a road that was paved 5 years ago and now it's getting attention again.
Yeah.
Right. So
I get it.
so I think I think if this is explained to them and they understand why, and that this is to the benefit of their pocketbook, that rightly or wrongly, the road is already past being able to do this to. And yes, the reason that we're doing this is so that they will never suffer a road getting to that point again, because we're making better use of the dollars throughout the whole life cycle of the roads. I just think we need a clear communication plan so that everybody, and I say that, the residents in mind, everybody understands what this is about and what's going on. But I think it's a great idea and we should have been doing it. I do have a question about the only reason I'm going to pick on Second Concession Road is because I drive it 2 or 3 times every day. So I'm curious as to what types of things we would do on a road like Second Concession Road. That one has some dips in it. It's got 1 or 2 big delamination issues and so on. I don't think in general that the road is in such horrible shape, but it's showing some signs of wear. So what are the types of things that you're going to be doing with the road like that to extend its life?
Specifically for Second Concession, I would be looking at doing a double micro seal. So a double micro consists of a rock fill first, and then another layer on top of that.
Okay.
And that's what I would be doing on a road like that.
Okay, that gives me a good idea. All right, thanks.
Councilor Brady?
Yeah, well, I was alluding to that when I said that before. The Second Concession was one of the last roads, big projects that we did. Kelly Side Road was one of the last big projects we did. And I wondered why they would be up right now. Old Red Road. I don't travel it every day, but the last time I was down it, it wasn't that bad. Airport Road, the last time I was down it, I go down there fairly often, but it isn't that bad. And when I said that it's a good thing I live on a county road, I wasn't intended to hurt anybody's feelings that live on them roads, but in years past, it always seemed that there was counselors, not in this room because this room was usually a fire hall. Upstairs, there was counselors sitting around the table and they made sure they got their roads fixed. And I'm not saying that that's the case now, but you look at it. And I just wondered why we're doing that. And then there's all these other people with roads that are mud with stone on them. There's no fault of the township, but they're gravel roads. And maybe some of them would be wanting to get a little bit of attention too. So I just wanted to bring that up and make it clear that it is in the back of my mind that it has been done before. Thank you.
Thank you. For the director, and then I'll go to Councilor Renaud after that. Director?
Okay, so first of all, these preservations do not add any strength to our road. So this is not like an overlay, Councillor. This is simply trying to seal the surface of the road to prevent water from getting underneath of it and causing it to look like Airport Road way sooner than it should. None of these roads were selected with any intention other than the condition that they're in now.
Councilor Renaud?
Well, I was just going to suggest that doing this to me is like fixing a leak in your oil on your car. If you don't fix the leak on the oil in your car, you're going to burn it out. You're going to have to buy a brand new car. If you fix the leak, you might get another 20 years out of it. Same thing applies to the road. If we do this, we'll get a lot more out of it. But if your road's already past doing this, I'm thinking that Councillor Brayton is missing that small little reality here, if this is just to help the road. So we don't have to spend the big bucks on it.
Councilor Brayton?
Yeah, I'm not missing a thing. I just don't think that them roads, in my mind, that they need to be anything done to them before other roads. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Councilor Pretty John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you have a statue that's made out of cement and you don't seal it and there's a crack and the water gets into it and it freezes, it pops the whole statue, you lose it all. So wouldn't this just be the same thing? You're going to seal the road, hopefully get all the cracks so the water doesn't get in there, freeze and pop the road. Would that be about right, Charles?
That is very much correct.
Councilor Brayton?
Director, could that apply to most any road that's in the township?
Oh, some of the roads are way past the point of these working.
But most roads that even the latest roads that have been done, there's cracks in.
Correct.
So that would apply to any road that the township, in the township.
You're correct.
You're right. Thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Just a couple comments. One road that I don't see on here, it's a great long stretch, which is Kilkenny Road. I didn't know if Kilkenny Road was considered. Is beyond having this.
Yeah.
Surface.
Yeah.
Um,
Possibly a micro, but even that, I would be, because of the depth of running. The rut fill that a double micro would help. Those ruts are too deep. So that's.
all I'm saying is that I look at that road. The running is one, and the amount of cracking is the other. Okay. Councilor Reagan?
The Director of Finance, do we have any 95-cent dollars or 50-cent dollars coming in anymore? We used to get.
Well, not for roads, but we've certainly got a lot of recreation funding this year, and some of it was 100%.
Well, that's good, but nothing for roads.
Nothing for roads.
Oh. But this modernization can go into roads,
It's not really for roads, no.
no?
It's not for capital.
Well, maintenance. Not for maintenance either.
Well, we weren't able to, we applied for the landfill scale at the landfill, and the response I got was this was not an acceptable project because it was capital.
Yeah.
However, we did get funding for computer software and stuff like that. They don't consider that bricks and mortar, I guess, and we were approved for those things.
Thank you.
So there's no more questions. I'm gonna read this out so everyone is very well aware of what you're voting on here this evening. So this report is to be received, that's PW 22-07, to be received, and that the committee recommends to council to add an additional $100,000 to the capital road program for asphalt preservation projects in 2022.
Does it say where the money's coming from?
I can ask that question before we go there. Is that taxation or?
That $100,000 could easily be, how do I say it? Captured in the existing capital plan. Most of our budgets are fairly healthy, so they could probably be reduced some to make this up. Capital.
Capital. That's the capital.
Or do we, oh no, that's what you and I were talking about. would this fall under operating or capital?
I think it's a life cycle maintenance. I think it's capital. We're extending the life of the road. I would call it capital.
It's enough money, I would think of the capital.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're planning to do it every year, then it becomes a life cycle maintenance thing.
Well, that's where I'm kind of,
I know where you're going, but you're correct, how I look at
We'll find a spot for it if council.
it. Councilor Freddie John, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have a question. I have a statement. I believe this is preventative maintenance, and I think that's what we were all looking to do, like keep what we have, preserve what we have before we get on to trying to do anything extra. If we'd done preventative maintenance on, say, the garage and all the rest of the stuff, we wouldn't now be looking at having to build a new one, things falling down and leaking. So I would certainly be in favor of adding that $100,000 somewhere into the budget so that we could do some preventative maintenance on our roads. Thank you.
Anyone else? Call the question. All those in favor?
Mr.
Oh.
Chair, please, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes,
I don't have a mover and seconder, sorry.
for that report,
Yep,
Councilor Edie, Councilor Freddie John.
Thank you.
No problem. Just do that again. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
That business of failing to get a mover second, that's my trick, but you're welcome to
Yeah.
do it if you want it.
Well, I think what Edie is the one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, 8.7, that's report PW 22-08, roadside spraying for 2022. Director, does anyone want to add to this list?
no, there's not.
All right, thank you. Any questions, concerns from the members of the committee? Mayor Burrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Great that we've got those roads and distances and so on. I'm assuming that this is not just an automatic spray program. So let me pick Miller Road, 2.6 kilometers. If they go along and there's no indication that the weeds have come back, are they still going to be spraying?
No.
So this is a spray as needed.
They expect it.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Yep.
It's just these two lists were generally what they follow.
Yeah.
And because they find that the spray works for the 2 years. And
Yeah, good. Thanks.
All right, we'll call the question. I don't see any hands up. All those in favor of the report? Oh, you got a question?
Well,
Director?
Mr.
I just
Chair,
want to make sure, yeah, like line 8 was one of the roads that I know wanted to be, I think Councillor Renault, right?
I never suggested line 8. I suggested Cecil Side Road.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But it's okay. I can spray it myself.
What, line 8 or Cecil Side Road?
Cecil Side Road. I don't live on line 8. I cut all the grass on my road and there is no weeds. It's a lawn from Cecil Side Road to County Road 7. Hey, can I get a discount on my taxes?
Madam Clerk, do you have a question?
I need a mover and seconder, please.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I missed that.
Councilor Renault and Councilor Freddie John.
Sorry, I missed that.
That's all right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.8, that's report PW 22-09, grader 6, repair versus replacement. Director of Public Work, can I have a mover and a seconder for that report? Mayor Burrow, seconded by Councilor Freddie John. Director, do you have anything to add to your report?
I do not.
Any questions regards to this report? Being none, Let me read out very clearly what this recommendation is. From this report, that this report be received, and that the committee supports staff's recommendation to have the required repairs completed on grader 6, funded from the fleet reserve, and defer the replacement of grader 6 to at least 2030. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, number 9, financial to date, Public Works financial statement dated February 2nd, 2022. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this report? Financials, Councillor Brayton, seconded by Councillor Lind. Any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of the financial report? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any informational items regards to Public Works? Councillor Brayton.
I don't want to give any, I want to get some. The director, of Public Works. On Christmas morning, you had a snowplow tip over on the middle of the road in Toledo.
Yes.
What is, I still haven't heard anything from the township that happened. I got it from a guy that come along and took a picture of it and sent it to me that day. That's the only information I got from him. I don't know whether the truck is written off or fixable, or I haven't heard nothing about that. I did hear from a fireman that there was no township employee from Public Works there at the accident. And I would just like to know what went on, what happened to the truck. Is it, did the insurance looked at it, or haven't they? Have they written it off, or haven't they? Or I heard that the driver was fired. He was a contract driver. And he.
Oh, can I
had the truck
interrupt,
hit 3
please?
times.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Madam Clerk.
can we withhold any personnel conversation to a closed session?
Can't make any comments regards to employees.
Well, I was wondering if he was okay, but I'm more worried about the truck. Is it fixable or not?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the employee.
So Director, can you just comment on the truck?
Yep, so the truck was put through the insurance process and it was determined that it can be fixed.
We can?
Yep. For the interim, we have hired a truck from LA Knott to cover off the road for that.
That's in Toledo?
That's correct.
So what's our deductible on that?
10,000, I believe.
And did the Monday following that, did another snowplow go in the ditch out there? A contract?
We've had a few trucks go in the ditch. That's a fairly common thing.
Well, it shouldn't be.
Well, when you're driving on ice, it is.
Is there any direct question to ask?
No, but it would be nice to be kind of, somebody says we had a truck dip. Oh, did we then? And everybody seems to know about it before we do. And there's been a month and pretty near a month and a half, well, be a month, more than a month that nobody's said it.
Okay, so regards to Christmas Day 1, I will say that there was an email sent out. Unfortunately, maybe you didn't see it, Councilor Brayton, but there was an email to say that we had a vehicle that did tip over. we don't get into the discussion, or did we really get into the, indulge into the information of pulling around the truck or anything else? But,
There shouldn't be nothing wrong to say, is it fixable or not?
no, that question is fine to ask. Anything else, Senator? Yeah, Councilmember Scarborough.
So, Mr. Chair, I wonder if we had a lawnmower that bent a blade and somebody cut their finger off, would we expect to know about that? I mean, there's operational issues and there's governance issues, and we were told about it. And I don't think that we should be really getting into the operational issues. And I think that really opens up the floodgates. I understand it was a major incident on the one hand, you know, and we may all be curious. I understand that, you know, we shouldn't look uninformed to the public, but the public needs to understand that we have a role to play, and that's governance. We've got staff to look after the operational issues, and they did. So if we don't like the way that our place is operating, I guess we need to get different staff, but I like the staff we have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just a comment. I don't disagree with your comments. Perhaps now we're in the budget time. Perhaps we could have had a report to say, you know, this plow is going to cost X $100 for whatever damage. We don't need to get into the personal information stuff or anything else. Besides, what's it going to cost us to operate and repair? I guess it's the only. Okay, so was there any questions, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll move it over to recreation. Thank you.
All right, we'll start recreation off with the staff reports. 11.1, report number Rec 22-1, the video surveillance update. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Prettyjohn and Councillor Renault. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Renault, go ahead.
So these are operational now, and they are where exactly?
I can speak to that if that's okay.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a number of cameras at Lynn Ball, Blaine Healy, and Bellamy Park, I believe. Is that right?
One of the same. So probably Clifford Hall.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I
Sorry.
don't think it was
No?
No,
So where were the two?
Clifford.
Clifford E. Hall, Lynn Ball, Rouse Corners.
That's
I can report.
That's the one I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I can report that there's one camera at Lynn Ball that is not working, and that there was a electrical issue, and that's going to have to be addressed when the frost is out of the ground.
So does this, they just take pictures there and hold it, or do they send those pictures somewhere? Does it go to somebody's computer, or?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but I believe the intention is that, yes, it'll be available for viewing when required on a township computer at the office.
Okay, thank you.
But we're still working through those details.
Councillor Smith?
thank you, Madam Chair. Just in regards to the custom-made surveillance signs.
Yeah.
Are they signs that the township is getting custom-made themselves? Perhaps, did you look at the option of just buying the generic
We did.
24-hour surveillance sign?
They didn't really reflect what we were doing, and the cost really wasn't not that much more.
Okay. All I'm saying is that they're already available. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're muted, Madam Chair.
Cool, I'm just talking to myself. Okay, so everybody's okay with the sign then? And the bylaw that's attached to it? Okay, so all those in favor? And that's carried. Moving along. Oh,
Our director just wants to get in here.
sure.
The policy was also part of this, and that was a motion. Just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that fact and that they're comfortable with the policy, the draft policy.
No one saw any issues? Anyone? You guys are also quiet tonight.
No, you just didn't see me, Madam Chair.
Oh, there you are. Go ahead, Red.
Just a quick question, and maybe even our administrator clerk can answer this herself. Just one of the bullets talking about responsibilities of our administrator clerk include overseeing day-to-day operations of the video surveillance cameras. We're just a little bit surprised to see that one. I'm assuming that's just all about the interpretation of what overseeing really means, but you're not going to be sitting in front of a video screen monitoring the parks all day long.
No, absolutely not. The concept is that as the administrator clerk, I have been delegated the freedom of information responsibilities under MFIPA. So that's why it will end off being me, but the daily operations can be delegated to ensure that they're up running and any maintenance that's required. But it really is about the data more than anything else. It has to be protected.
Yeah, perfect. That's more or less what I thought. I just wanted to have that out there and clarified. So thanks for that.
Did you need a second motion for the policy, Yvonne, or is that okay?
No, I believe the direction has been given and the policy will come forward to council for adoption at its next regular meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll move along then. 11.2, report number Rec 2202, the Rural Recreation Association Trails Summit. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that one, please? I got Councillor Smith and Councillor Prettyjohn. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about that? I am sorry, my agenda is not opening. I just have a little rainbow swirling around in circles. So I don't know what the motion was for that one.
Just to receive the report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So all those in favor of receiving the report? And that is carried. 11.3, Rec 2203, notable differences between 2021 and the proposed 2022 Parks and Recreation budget. I'm going to need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Mayor Burrow and Councillor Renault. Anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments for that? Oh my goodness. I'm not a very good head when I can't open it. Do you have your hand up, Mayor Burrow?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to zero in on the last item about the miscellaneous parks. And it's talking about there'd also be an additional cost of $15,000 to remove the tree stumps from the ash trees that were previously cut down. Should council wish to move in that direction. Again, $15,000 is not just pocket change on the one hand. On the other hand, I think about, we worry about a 2-inch difference in sidewalks or whatever the threshold is where we have to paint them or grind them or do something with them. So I'm a little bit concerned about the liability of the tripping hazard from stumps that are left behind. But even beyond that, I think it's an issue of community pride and quality of life type of thing. I think they're going to look unsightly if we just cut them down and leave them, 6, 8, 10 inches above the ground like that. For the $15,000, I think we owe it to our residents to have those parks looking nice again. Otherwise, what use are the parks serving? So, I certainly don't have a problem spending the money on finishing off the job right. Thanks.
Anybody else? All right, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, report number Rec 2204, the Red Cross Swim Program transition. I'm gonna need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Linton and Counselor Brayton. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments on that?
Or director.
The director, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to provide an update on this one. Jennifer will be attending a webinar on February the 22nd in regards to this transition, so we'll likely have a lot more information at the next meeting.
Counselor Pretty John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just asking, not about the swim program, but is the rec coordinator at this meeting tonight, or does she
No.
not come anymore? Just a question.
She is not here tonight. No.
Is she normally going to be here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, all those in favor of receiving that report then? That is carried. Financials to date 12.1 recreation financial statements dated February 2nd, 2022. Can I get a mover and seconder to that? Councillor Renault and Councillor Pretty John. Any questions, comments, concerns? Not seeing any, so all those in favor of receiving the
Oh, Madam Chair.
you're too slow. Go ahead.
So I happened to flag page 6 of the report. It's page 85 of our agenda package, but it's a theme that occurs throughout. So I happened to flag that one for the grass cutting contract. And I'm just wondering, all the grass cutting contracts seem to be well above what we budgeted. Could just be the year. I guess my point is this now the new reality, or like should we be budgeting a lot more than we have been doing? Or do we consider that the weather this year was kind of an anomaly and generated a blip?
I will have to look into that. I do not have an answer.
Okay.
Sorry.
Counselor Brayton's got his hand up.
Go ahead, Councillor Brayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I remember right, in the grass cutting over the past few years is just went up on grabs and driddles. So there's no wonder they're wanting more money.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not disputing that it's worth it. I'm just, again, just for the budgeting purposes.
Yeah,
There's no point saying it's only going to cost 4 if we know it's going to cost 8 type of thing.
yeah, but it has been
Mhm.
very, very good.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
All right. It was a perfect growing season last year too. There's lots of rain and heat, so hopefully it won't be as bad. So all those in favor of receiving the financials? And that is carried. Any informational items? Anybody? Greenbush was closed for a little bit for skating because of that warm spell we had, but we reflooded and it's all good to go again. So that is open, and that's pretty much all I have right now. Director, did you have anything? Because I can't see you.
No, I do not have anything more to add.
Awesome. Public question period, was there any?
Not on this end.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to be moving into the closed meeting. 15.1 Municipal Act, Section 239B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, specifically organization structure. So I'm going to get a mover for adjournment, please.
Well, just before we do that, I think Councilor Brayton had his hand up. Oh, okay. No, go ahead, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Mover and second for adjournment. Councilor Pretty John. And all those in favor? And that is carried. If anybody else would like to do this, that'd be great because I'm frozen.
Oh, now
Completely.
you mean as in cold or your video isn't?
No, like my agenda notes is completely frozen.
Oh,
I can't even move it or close it.
Open the fire.
Are we going off live?